So here's the thing, we gratefully live in a world where games and pastimes serve as passions and diversions for our mind, spirit, and body. Athletics and competition, not just for individuals, but for communities and nations, can be emblematic of so much sentiment, with the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, and the stories in between helping to fuel confident pride and hopeful aspirations. And speaking of confident aspirations, thank you all once again for listening and watching. Trust me, I know what I'm doing, and for sharing this with your friends and family. Your support reminds everyone that conversation is the antidote to apathy. And if you're enjoying these, please share a kind rating and review and follow along on social media and subscribe, as I'm really quite grateful. Now, if you're looking for a single sport that has a modern stronghold relationship on identity and the soul of a region, and particularly for India and its global diaspora, there's only one king, and it's cricket. But the stories of cricket athletes and their perseverance, skill building, and performance on the pitch or field are not always linear or even bound by location. And so it was simply terrific to catch up with athlete Saurabh Netravalkar about his own cricket story. Saurabh is from Malad in Mumbai and excelled in both academics and cricket his whole life. He actually used his computer science knowledge early on to build a cricket app that monitors and tracks performance, and his early skill and athleticism first brought attention as a star bowler of India's elite under 19 national team. This is where that starburst cricket story took a little turn. And after a seemingly stagnant plateau and with stiff competition from other athletes and bowlers, Saurabh didn't make the Indian national team or the Mumbai pro team. So, like many, Saurabh decided to venture to the US and pursue a master's degree in computer science at Cornell, and then life as a software engineer in California. Now, seemingly, that's where the cricket story would likely have ended. But as someone with incredible mental balance, a mature self awareness, and a passionate and deep sense of purpose, Saurabh kept playing cricket at the club level and local and regional levels here in the US, and eventually found himself on the national team with USA Cricket. This past month, as the world was watching the ICC T20 Men's World Cup, they were witness to Saurabh's balance of physical skill and stamina with mental agility and strength. His speed, pace, in match timing, and clutch performance led Team USA to a dramatic victory over Pakistan and into the Super 8 round, and even dismissing Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli in a match against Team India. A pretty stellar showing of cricket strength for someone who equally finds solace in yoga, mindful breathing, mentoring others, and even the ukulele to keep himself grounded. Saurabh's now playing Major League Cricket for the Washington Freedom, and we had a chance to catch up recently to talk about everything from recent lessons learned to growing the game here in the US. But I was curious to first know which was more active in the days since the T20 World Cup, the Slack channel at work or his WhatsApp threads with his teammates.
Both actually are pretty active. I'm really grateful to have received so many good wishes and blessings from everybody. Yeah, it's overwhelming, but at the same time, I feel humbled and I feel grateful as well. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Well, and your teammates must be obviously excited from the performances and now with practices for MLC starting, but your office mates must be very happy to have you back in some capacity too.
Yeah, definitely. It was great to come back and yeah, like I said, I've been appreciated from all over, so that's been really good. As far as my teammates are concerned as well, for each one of us, this was like a special platform and a special memory to cherish for us the last 1 month.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And so I'm curious with that, have you become pretty good at compartmentalizing and separating cricket and non-cricket activities, and even whether that's cricket versus non-cricket or work versus non-work, have you found a way to actually harmonize them so that your mind can actually integrate these things and merge them at once?
I think, yeah, since childhood, I've always like loved studying and always loved playing.
Yeah,
Uh, the way I sort of used to think about it is like now I kind of know what my mind uh, thinks and how I like arrive to managing these things. But to articulate it very simply, I think the mind has a strength and a limitation. I think the strength of the mind is that you have a lot of things that you can do
Mm,
and you can be good at. But the limitation is that it can focus on only one thing at a given point of time.
right.
So I try to balance it in a way as to, like, I have my to-do list or kind of thing in my mind. I even write it down, I articulate it as well.
Yeah.
And then once you pick one task and you assign time to it, that I'm going to focus on this thing right now, then you try to completely immerse yourself into it, go into the depths of that concept, try to do the best you can. And then when it's time to context a switch, just switch off from that thing that's done, and then just try to enjoy what you're doing right now. So I think that's kind of a gist of how I try to approach it.
Do you also know? I mean, that's fantastic. It probably takes a lot of self-awareness and discipline and being able to do that since a young age. Do you also know when there are times where you are recognizing that it is, there's a moment where it's becoming harder to do that, where it's harder to turn off the switch and actually be able to engage in the moment with what's in front of you?
That constantly happens almost every
Yeah.
day. So throughout my life, and I've just realized that I'm becoming more aware of when it's happening, and I'm recognizing that as I'm being overwhelmed, and that's the point I take some time out for myself, say 5-10 minutes or something. I reflect and I write down all my thoughts. I
Mm,
just think out loud, I write it down, and then once you articulate everything and read it back, then you actually think that, oh, it's not as bad as I think it is. And
mm.
then you start off prioritizing those things that you've written. And then one more thing important is, like, you should be okay with imperfection. Like, life is not going to be perfect. You're not going to be able to do whatever you think you're going to be able to do. So just try to pick the 2 3 things that you can practically do, and I try to achieve that in the day.
It's
And
it.
just, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, go
I
ahead.
was going to say it's interesting that on the one hand, there's this beautiful ability to journal and write and put things on paper and then reflect on this. And I'm guessing that this is a practice that probably gets perfected even through yoga and pranayam and some of the things that you're very fond of, I know as well. And then there's things like Cricut app, which is the app you develop to help people improve with their sports skills, and they seem like they're kind of two very similar ways to go about self improvement, and yet one is very much driven by real writing and reflection, and the other is very much digital. And is that kind of the way to go forward, where you have to use all the tools at your disposal?
Definitely, I think with the evolution of technology, data science, and the insights that are at our disposal, with the sheer volume of data that is out there, it's best to use the technologies that we have. I mean, it's always good to parameterize and factualize a subjective thing.
Yeah.
So if you have concrete data, concrete graphs, you know patterns as to where you can get better. And in sports, it can be concrete, right? You have
Mm.
proper stats on that venue against that opposition. What have you done? What were you thinking at that time? So if you document all that, you will clearly find patterns. I think professional teams use that. We have dedicated video analysts, data analysts with every team now, and that happens in the strategy rooms for each team. So why not individually to improve your game?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And we do the same thing in medicine and in virtually every profession, right? You have a human side to it, and then you have a very data-driven side to it, and there's importance to leverage just about every aspect of it. Um, in the end, at least these last couple of weeks, it's boiled down to a lot of what is important to you on the pitch and with performance. And I know you've been playing cricket for a long, long time, and constantly aiming and hoping to improve. Are there some routines or even habits and practices that you've developed even from a young age that have been very steadfast and they remain part of your preparation or practice or even match routine, even from a young age that you still use today as part of your routine?
Yeah, they've been changing or evolving over time. So I've been very grateful to have had wonderful coaches throughout my childhood who not only worked on the physical skills but also on mental skills and preparation. And I think that it really isn't emphasized as much as it should,
Mm,
because it's more the mental skills that will take you forward than your actual physical skills. So to name a few routines, I think initially since childhood we learned about goal setting, where
yeah,
you split your goals into short term, medium term, long term goals. Your short term goals are process oriented, which where you try to control the controllables, what you can improve in your training session and stuff. But you need to have a vision or a long term goal that is always in the back of your mind that you're trying to achieve. So for me, in my childhood, it was to play under 19 of a World Cup for India. That was
yeah,
always a dream at that time. So that is back of your mind, but you don't think about it in your everyday tasks.
right, right.
So that one thing we learned. The other thing was how to be in an ideal performance state where a little bit of nerves is good and it's essential, but your nerves shouldn't get the better of you. So, and that can be done through regulating your breathing. So,
Yeah,
if you're breathing, if you just pay attention to your breath, if you're nervous, you'll notice that you're breathing faster than normal. So,
right,
that you can just take a few deep breaths and slow down your breathing. Or it could be the other way. If you're too lethargic that day, you'll notice that you're breathing too slowly and you need to pump yourself up to the occasion. So
right.
then you do some vigorous exercises to pump yourself up. It's just being aware of you being in that perfect state of little bit of butterflies now, so that you value that opportunity but not being too overawed by the situation. So these two, three small things, and obviously being clear about what you want to do in the moment
Yeah,
and being confident on your skills. I mean, skills and preparation, there's no shortcut for it. It's just volumes of hard work that you have
right.
to do. That is a non-negotiable for everybody.
But
But
it's
these are
interesting.
the other one percenters that will get you up that level.
Yeah. No, but it's interesting that, the things that are carried from childhood definitely include the hard work baseline of physical skill development and your craft. But the mental capacity, the preparation, attention to breathing, attention to that sort of low amplitude excitement, and a little bit of that anxiety and nervousness definitely helps you along the way. I'm wondering, the last few weeks have been so transformative for so many stakeholders, for you. Um, what were some of the non-cricket lessons that maybe you took away from this entire T20 experience?
Non-cricket lessons, personally, I'd say that what you can do is you can only give your 100%. You can't do more than that. So
Mm,
that's what you can do by simplifying a complex thing as to what can you do. But
yeah,
that's the best thing I can do. And if you do that consistently on a daily basis without looking at the uncontrollables, like how good the opponents are or how big the crowd is, all these are uncontrollable things, how the weather is, then you will be surprised by the results that can come.
yeah,
So you can definitely compete at a good level if you give your best, and if not, you at least get a feedback where you can get better.
mm,
So that's what our coach used to always say. Like always says that you either win or you learn is what he says to us.
yeah,
So that culture is very important. That if you play together, give your best, just do what your role is, and trust everybody else in your team to do it, that forms that bond, and then you can, as a team, you can create surprises.
I'm sure the team grew quite a bit in these last few weeks, and again, as the you play on multiple teams and you play with multiple different players, but at the same time, would you say that this was clearly a growth experience, not just for you, but also for the team? Um, is this the kind of thing that, of course, as you go to the next T20 cycle or even to MLC, from a team standpoint, are there some growth opportunities that you also saw for yourself?
Team wise, definitely, I think we've come a long way since I started playing for the US in 2018. Few of those players are still there in the World Cup squad, so we kind of have been part of a journey. Like I always say, like it's been being part of an early startup
Mm,
where you're seeing it grow.
yeah.
And full credit to everybody. They've gone through different shares of their own sacrifices, their own trials and tribulations. And everybody, the strength of this team, again, everybody comes from different backgrounds, different countries, and very different, unique, and inspiring stories. So we get to learn from each other so much, and we are happy for each other's growth. So
Mm,
that was one strength. That is a strength of our team right now. And we always, like, we prepare hard. Like we try to be as fit as we can. We try to do the best within the limited resources that we have. I think that's another
mm,
sort of challenge that everybody has to overcome here, because not every place has a proper cricket pitch to even train on. So you need to
right.
find that time, and it's not our bread and butter. So
Yeah.
you have your other stuff that you do to sustain yourself, and then this is your passion that you need to find time to train. You need to find that resources, and then come together and you do the best with what you have. So yeah, it's kudos to everybody.
I'm sure that your ability to practice some of these things that you mentioned earlier about the mental preparation. I'm guessing that some of this must have also rubbed off on your teammates, especially as you go through so many highs and lows, whether it's even within a match or from match to match, and as you're playing. Um, there's an obvious high for you of the super over versus Pakistan, and then the near catch for Surya Kumar Yadav for that ball, and then the outs against Virat and Rohit. How do you stay leveled in a way and not necessarily get seduced by the super highs or the super lows in order to, in a way, make sure that you have that focus?
So I think, yeah, I mean, firstly, to answer the mental side, I think each one of us in our team has different ways of doing it, like
Yeah,
of staying calm or of being well prepared. Like some people are gym people, some people like to run. I
yeah,
like to do my yoga, like my other practices. So everybody has their happy space or their space where that helps them to stay calm.
mm,
Um, for me, I think it's mostly evolved. First, I used to be very materially goal driven as to this is what I want to achieve, this is what I want to achieve. But once I've sort of started in the spiritual path, it's just about being in connection with the divine. Like I don't feel that I am doing anything. I just want to be an instrument, and I
yeah,
want to act and do whatever the task is at hand to the best of my ability, and whatever the fruits come, I don't want to be attached to those fruits. Like those
right.
fruits can be good on one day, they can be bad on the other. But if I attach myself to my process and I stay true to that, hey, did I give my best?
Yeah,
Or did I learn something new? Like if the result wasn't to my liking, that's what I focus on. So I follow this: you prepare, you execute, and then you reflect on what you did.
yeah,
Just these three things and loop it over again. The fruits will come. Enjoy them if they're good. if they're not, that's fine. You learn from it. That's what I try to do.
And I imagine that, on the pitch itself, when you have a very, very high moment, it's hard not to celebrate. It's hard not to, really emote and share those emotions. And yet at the same time, when there's a defeat or a setback, hopefully it makes it easier for it to be just a pure learning opportunity too.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's important to enjoy the moment as well. I mean, if
Right.
you've done good, it's important to enjoy that fruit, and it's okay to show some sadness and emotions. That's fine, as long as you're aware that it's transient. Everything is transient. It's going to pass,
Yeah.
but we have to stay true to the process and the journey. The journey is the focus. That's what I try to think about now.
That's great. Yeah. With all the incredible individual play, I mean, it's like you said, it's a team game. And I'm curious how some of your individual experiences have maybe contributed to your growth as a leader. And, particularly in a journey that's been already unconventional. And, with a reincarnation here in the US, how do you think, especially the last few weeks, but even just, you know, in the more recent past, how have these experiences with a lot of individual success, how have they transformed you as a leader?
As a leader, so like I said, I mean, in the US, I didn't even dream about playing cricket, let alone playing at this level.
Yeah.
So it's like,
By the way, do you view yourself as a leader?
so I think everybody has leadership in them, and leadership doesn't just mean being captain of your team, or it doesn't being you being in a position of authority.
Yeah.
Leading means being accountable for your own actions, is what I think right now. Like I that perception used to be different for me. It used to be more of the former that I told you, like being
Yeah.
captain or being able to command people. But that's not just being a leader. It's being about, if you're assertive about your actions, you're accountable for your actions, and you're clear about what you're doing in your role, you can be the leader of your role in a game or in any walk of life. And once you do that, then people start getting inspired by what you do.
Mm,
So in that sense, for me, it's just about doing my processes to the best of my ability. If I'm doing that, and if people get inspired, that's great. Like,
yeah.
that's a win-win situation, and my team also benefits because I'm trying to do the best of my role.
Right. I'm curious because not everyone has that kind of thoughtful approach where they modulate things that way, and their versions of leadership might be completely different. So, has that been a surprising evolution for you? Has it been maybe a surprising evolution for those who are around you also?
Yes, it has been. I mean, like I said, it's been a transformative journey since my childhood till
Yeah.
now. My thoughts have changed. My character is being shaped. It's still being shaped. I'm still learning
Right.
new things every day. So yeah, I think this bunch of group, like the players in our team, also have gone through lots of highs and lows, and they've come out top as leaders in their own roles.
Mm,
And you can see that by the performances where different individuals have put their hands up in crucial moments, especially if you take the Pakistan game.
yeah.
It started off with a brilliant catch in the slips by Steven Taylor.
Yeah.
That was an unbelievable catch, and that gave us the first wicket, which gave us the belief that, okay, yes, we are here to compete. We can do something out of this game. And there were so many key moments in the game, like our batters, the partnerships. We needed 12 of 3 for the guy to hit a 6, Aaron Jones to hit a 6, and then for Nitish to hit a boundary in the last ball where 5 runs were needed off a ball.
Right.
In the super over, uh, Milind, who wasn't even playing in the 11, was of fielding, and he took a brilliant catch.
Right.
So, like, everybody contributed that still is a leadership in their own role, because they're taken ownership to do the best that they can in the opportunity that they have.
Right.
So that's what I think like leadership is to me.
Yeah, certainly a team effort and people really stepping into their roles and understanding both their huge strengths and their limits. And sounds like leadership was definitely on full display, especially during that Pakistan match. I'm curious, for you and your family. Obviously, the match versus India was special all around, and your fiercest loyalty comes to your team, and your fondest friendships perhaps are also with many of the players on the India team as well. So I'm sure you've been asked this before, but I'm also curious for your family. How hard was it for all the emotions that tug on you, whether it's loyalty to country and certainly loyalty to your team. Um, was it easy to cheer for? Was it easy for your family to cheer for you and yet also feel very patriotic at the same time?
I think so. I mean, if you look at it with a lens of, I'll use a little bit of Sanskrit words that I used in other interviews also. I say, uh, India is my Janma Bhumi, and this is my Karma Bhumi, where
Mm,
I do my acts or my deeds.
yeah,
And when I'm playing a cricket game representing the USA, that is my country. And
yeah,
um, what is my dharma? My dharma or my best action is to give the best to the team that I'm playing for, and
right,
that's what I'll do. But at the same time, the patriotism is still there. I mean, I am an Indian at heart. I'm born in India.
yeah,
I've grown up in India. So you have to dissect the two things. While you're acting, you give the best that you can,
yeah,
and you want to make your team win. But in general, when anything else is happening, when the Indian team is playing, I support the Indian team. So
of
that's fine.
course, yeah. Would you, I mean, that's beautiful, by the way, having this great analysis and even just example of Janmabhoomi versus Karmabhoomi. For your wife and your mom, did they feel at times, perhaps going back and forth between the two?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard them say like, yeah, India will win, but if you do well, that's good. But
Right.
that's
Uh,
banter. I mean, but they wanted all of us to do well, because they're
yeah.
also like they've seen each player in our USA team. Like we've been playing for 5 6 years, and we've known each other's families as well. Like because we travel on tour, so they also have a bond with each one of us in the USA team. So it's like this was our team for that day.
Right.
But yeah, in general, when India plays, when we are not involved, then obviously we support them.
I'm curious. I mean, your journey through this has obviously been, one that has come with lots of twists and turns. And, for you, what did you have to maybe unlearn about cricket after you came to the US?
Unlearned a lot actually. So unlearn one thing is obviously that past doesn't matter at all. Like whatever you would have done in the past is the past in sports, and all that matters is what are you today, what are you going to do now.
Mm,
So if you've taken 5 wickets in the past, if you played for India under 19, all that won't matter if you're not doing well right now.
yeah,
So I learned about living in the present moment. You have to start your new journey from scratch here. So I
right,
would say that my journey started from scratch, where I played club cricket, college cricket. I had to earn a name again. Like nobody was going to pick me based on my past.
right,
So I had to prove myself again here. So that was again the goal. Like, do the best that I can, try to improve my skills. And I think my skills also improved here a lot. One other thing I felt was little bit of freedom, and that I was enjoying the game much more here, because I
mm,
felt it was more driven by purely passion. It wasn't for anything else that I'm playing. It's for the love of the game.
Yeah,
Whereas in India, yes, there is some fierce competition that you have to go through. There is those kind of pressures as well of your selection. You will drop from the team. This will happen. That will happen,
sure.
and so much scrutiny in India. So in that way, yes, I did feel much freer in the mind that I was able to enjoy the game. I was able to. So that helped me develop more here, where I unlearned that to take being too harsh on myself on in failure times, because you're bound to fail more than you succeed as a sportsman. That's one another thing I realized,
Yeah,
and you can't get away from that. You will fail more, and that's fine as long as you're not too harsh on yourself, but you keep learning from your mistakes.
right. It's a rapid turnaround that like it happened, move on.
Yeah,
And you mentioned that there's an element of being liberated from, many things that in coming here. Did you need, in a way, a period of cricket dormancy in order to maybe realize this current success?
exactly, and that's what I had right when I actually gave up the sport and I came to pursue my masters. So when I pursued my masters, I barely played. I barely trained. I hardly trained. Actually, I didn't train. I just played college, but that was for fun. Like I used to play for fun with my. There was a college a, a cricket club and a few matches here and there we played. American college cricket used to be an organization.
Yeah.
They used to have a few games, but my focus was fully on my courses and my study. Because
Although
that's what I
there's a
came.
lot of snow up in Ithaca, so
Okay. And that's what I came for. So in
yeah.
that full 1 year, I hardly played anything. But there were days when I used to cry. I didn't know, like I
Mm,
missed the game so much
yeah.
that I used to doubt myself. What am I doing here? Like, but I used to love my courses. That's a different thing. But this,
Right.
it used to feel like one part of me is missing,
Sure.
and I didn't know what I could do about it. I couldn't do nothing about it. So I just thought, okay, I'll focus on my education. We'll see where life takes. I'll play for fun. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
So just kept doing that, and one opportunity after the other. One door kept opening one. But the important thing for me was to be aware of that door.
Mm, yeah.
It's lot of people miss this, where you're too focused on your troubles that you don't see the door that's open for you.
Right.
Because you need to be able to see that as an opportunity and then grab it with both hands and do that extra bit to get to that door.
Yeah. And that's so true, right? Because in those periods of real stagnancy, of real despair, of sadness, of loss, undoubtedly there's some opportunity that's there's a lifeline that hopefully people take advantage of. Um, Now that you've realized, I mean, you've obviously had success in the engineering field, and you got your master's, and you've come back to California and had success in this way, and now cricket is enjoying sort of a pretty big renaissance in the United States, obviously. T20 seems to be the perfect way for more Western and worldwide audiences, especially on TV, to get introduced, to more and more cricket. I'm curious for you, as someone who, again, has such a tremendous respect and passion for cricket. Does something get lost at all for either the player or even the audience when you're not doing 50 overs, when you're not doing test matches? Is there something there that, yes, there's the great benefit of introducing cricket and having that sort of window into it, and yet there's something that the purist would say, well, we're missing something there, and is that okay?
Yeah, I think it has to go in phases. Like you said, the first phase has to be T20 in an unevolved market, in a growing market, because you want to attract the entertainment and the fun of it. And
Yeah.
you see big sixes, big fours. The closest games are T20. I mean, the shorter the format, the closer the games are, the less the gap is between the top teams and the the decent teams. So
And by the way, that's what kids and youth are going to likely be appreciating also.
So the decent teams will have a shot at a T20 game rather than a test match. Will be impossible to beat a good team.
Right.
An ODI team and ODI also will be really hard to beat good teams. So that is one thing. The second thing is, like you said, like short duration. People will come and watch. They'll try to understand the game. They'll have fun, and they'll go like they watched a movie.
Yeah.
And you hopefully want a few people to then pick up the sport. But when the market evolves, when people really appreciate the game, the technique, the strategies, then you can introduce the more purer forms of the game like ODI cricket and then ultimately Test cricket.
Right.
Because Test cricket has its own beauties. The hardest form to play. It's the hardest form to survive. But again, you need to have that kind of an appreciation for the sport,
Yeah.
which it would come, but it would gradually come. But I think for the moment, this is the best. I think the T20 is the best format, and you can see its progress with Major League first season was also almost every game was a full house.
Yeah.
The with the World Cup, there's so much of a buzz in local media as well. So I mean, it's good. It started. So hopefully it carries on and grows.
Yeah, no doubt to a lot of the success of the US team, and there's so many. You mentioned it, right? There's a first step, there's a second step, there's a third step, and definitely in the US there's so many competing factors for the sports market, right? There's investors, there's competition even for talent, players who play multiple sports and dominant sports in the U.S. Um, having that talent development, having that pipeline. I mean, I was curious. One of your coaches, Rajendra Badadre, was commenting the other day that his one of his dreams, of course, is a USA and India World Cup or even T20 final. So, in order to actually realize that, with all the barriers that are there, particularly in the United States, competing against other sports, what do you think are some of the steps that are required in the US to have that aspirational version of cricket and at that kind of superb competition level, whether it's youth attracting young adult players and youth or major sponsors and television and media. What's the formula, do you think, here, especially having had a front row seat to this on the world stage and also now on the United States stage?
So I think it's a mix of top down and a bottom up approach.
Yeah.
So top down is obviously to invest in facilities for the national team to get like better resources to train, better stadiums to practice on, having more bilateral series with top countries.
Mm,
And I hope that is possible by seeing like the world has seen that we have the potential to compete against good teams.
yeah.
So the more we get to play against them throughout the year, the better we'll get as national team players. So that is one thing as a top-down approach. You need to have domestic tournaments like the Major League, uh, more of them, so that people get a good domestic pathway to make it to the national team as well.
Right.
So the players who are aspiring or on the benches will also become better. So bench strength will also be good. Uh, that is the top-down approach and immediate solution. The long-term approach has to be bottom-up, where you have to invest in your academies, the
Mm,
kids, and ultimately has to go into schools, colleges somehow,
right.
and making it a university sport. So once that happens, and once universities start recognizing it, and then you'll automatically get scholarships based on that. And that is a big incentive for a kid to pick up the sport.
Right.
So that is the ultimate aim, but that aim will come when the top does well. For example, the national team has to be doing well for the sport to be getting at least a base level of a popularity so that universities will then recognize it as a sport. And then
Mm.
so it's like a chicken and egg problem, but yeah, it needs to be
But
solved both ways, not just top down.
I guess it's the one of the most unique problems that only a engineer and a cricketer can solve. You're so thoughtful about all of this. Have you actually, I'm just curious, have you ever thought about in the future actually coaching and serving as someone who can advise and develop?
I mean, I do mentor or guide kids who, because I keep training alongside uh, like kids every day, like
Yeah.
almost in my in Bay Area. I don't formally coach, but yeah, I'm happy to help and share my experiences with anybody. Yeah, I'm
Mm.
happy to do that.
Is that something that feels like it's very participating and contributory and something to give back, perhaps, or is that something that there's just like anything else? It's a craft to perfect. It's something that coaches are also unique in that they're helpful in the physical art of things and also the mental art of things.
So I think coaching is not an easy job for sure. Like, and a good coach need not be a good player, and vice versa.
Right.
So sometimes great players, they find it hard to articulate what they're trying to do because it's so natural to them. It's
Yeah.
hard for them to explain to a youngster. But some coaches are so good at explaining. So it doesn't go hand in hand, is what I'm saying. That if you're a good player, you might not be a good coach.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do love interacting with kids. I do love like thinking about the game at a more mental level.
Yeah.
But I need to go through the technical knowledge as well, like because I
Sure.
will only know about what I do in my skills, and that I'm happy to share with everybody.
Mm.
But I have to go through the formal knowledge of the textbook as well to exactly know what to tell whom. But the good thing that playing at a good level teaches you is man management. At least
Yeah.
you know, you start recognizing patterns in people as to what drives them. Like
Right.
certain for certain people you might have to be stern. For certain people they need love and affection to
Mm.
get a point across. So those things you can learn by being in a team sport for a long time.
Right.
But proper coaching techniques and skills, you have to go through the textbook. You need to know that, and it's not an easy job.
Yeah, undoubtedly. And I know that the idea of even trying to first even just perfect yourself and be true to yourself, hopefully, a lot of that is rubbing off on other players, on teammates, and of course the people who you might be mentoring and coaching. I have one last thought to share and a thought to find and pick your brain about. You have so many different skill sets. You practice yoga, as we mentioned. You make ukulele music. And by the way, Kausalya Tsaram, what a wonderful little treat that you
Oh,
just
you
shared.
haven't.
Your wife and your mother and your family, they cheer you on. You have, several nations that are behind you with your work. You're a software engineer. And of course, obviously, you're a very accomplished athlete. Um, in the end, what do you hope people remember you for?
I don't know if they should. I remember me. Fine if they don't remember me. Just want to spread the positivity as long as I'm here. And if people get uh, positive vibes, or if they get any direction in life, or if anything helps them, that's great. I'm just being myself. I don't wish to be anything.
Do you think about legacy? Do you think about lasting impact? Uh, or yet, is it, look, I am who I am, and whatever happens with that is, in a way, just sort of the way it is.
Yeah, like I mentioned previously, nothing is lasting. There's nothing like legacy or anything.
Yeah.
Everybody lives their own life, their own journeys. The journey of life is to discover yourself.
Mm.
like they say in yoga, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to learn more about myself, and I wish everybody good vibes for their own journeys, and we're here to help each other in our journeys. In that I respect, I'd like to share whatever I experience, and if anybody can benefit or help me also through their experience, I'm listening.
Well, I know that so many people are discovering you and your work and all the great accomplishments and your journey along the way. And hopefully that's having great impact on people to discover their own journeys as well. Soda, what a terrific chance and opportunity to meet you and share a chat with you. And I hope we can try and visit again with you down the road.
Sure, yeah. Thanks a lot. It was really nice talking.
You're listening to Trust Me, I Know What I'm Doing. Stay tuned.